this Navigate Biz environment there, Alan.
My pleasure.
So, sounds like you got some super skills there, and I think be very useful. I know I'm excited about hearing some of these skills and how that works with this COVID environment and video environment. And as you said, 58th interview for the year, so must be some other people interested in how it all works as well. Yeah. What is it specifically you do, Alan? What's the service that you provide out there?
Well, it's all about helping people to read other people more effectively, and that can be from large corporations like Disney Films, Gillette, the federal police, the tax office, through to business of all sizes, parents and school teachers. And the way it works is your face gives away your personality. So the features on your face, that movement of muscles when you're thinking over and over, you create ridges and crevices. Yeah. Like I know that you've got a dry sense of humor, the same as so we can have some really great conversations, and they'll be light and easy. I know you're very adventurous, so like trying new things, and you analyze things. You need the information before you make a decision.
Yeah, right. So so very good.
Yes, nailed it.
But I'm really interested. Why I'm so excited to talk about you is that how has mask wearing and video conferences changed, I suppose, traditionally what you would have read, and also how you have, I guess, coached people to read and other people. What's has anything changed in the last 18 months for you and your line of work?
Yeah, well, when you're live with somebody in a real life situation, you've got the 3-dimension, you can see the whole face, you can see everything in real time. When we're on the internet, there are some delays sometimes on the feeds. So a micro expression, which gives away your emotions, little twitches on the face that react when you feel something or something is said to you, we unconsciously react. And in that moment before our conscious mind steps in, we give away an expression. That can be a little bit more difficult to see on the screen. However, as far as all the other facial features don't change overnight. So I can read your personality. It might just be the responses. I may have to ask another question. I might have to look for another indicator that confirms it. But as you said, wearing masks in real life, we're covering this area of our face. Your eyes themselves, the eyebrows, they still give away the expressions. At the same time, there's a whole bunch of traits I can see in that area of the face. So it's not just around the mouth, it's also the bridge of the nose, the shape of the eyes, the angle of the eyebrows and other things, and the closeness and all the rest of it. There's probably still about 40 traits I can see in the face.
Yeah, right. So it probably means if some of it's covered up, you've got to be, get more into the micro. You've actually got to hone your skill. You've got to be better, maybe, and learn from someone like yourself how we can do that. I mean, I feel like some of my superpowers have been taken away when someone's wearing a mask, because I've, I guess, informally honed my skills in front of people, face to face, selling with people from a very, very young age. And so those little micro things that you're looking for in someone's face is, those telltale signs. Hey, do I change my conversation? Do I change, my tempo? Or the words that I might use? But I mean, that's at a very, very basic level, nothing like what you do, but it's just something that I guess you refine. Any salesperson would refine over time as doing it enough. But who you mentioned some names before. I think you said the police. What are some of the other organisations that you work with, Al?
Well, two of the larger ones was Disney Films and Gillette. They hired me for their Rogue One Star Wars launch by doing a joint venture. Right. Gillette had their new Razor, and they were using all the players from Rogue One. And at the same time, Disney Films were launching all the new outfits for all those new black stormtroopers and also the new rebels. And so they hired me, flew me to London to be interviewed by the world's press to explain the stories the face tells before you utter a single word. And Disney were about how can you, by changing the shape of your beard, how does that affect the appearance on your face, and therefore how do people change the way in which they perceive you. So that was a wonderful gig. Probably the largest fee I'd ever charged. 10-day holiday to do 3 hours work in that particular situation. And I love those sort of gigs. So if anybody's listening to this out there who has any more of those gigs, give me a call.
Give Alan a call, indeed. That's amazing. And you know, our audience, Alan, as I'm sure I remember I shared with you previously, are our small business owners. There's a lot of people out there that are moving to doing the virtual sales, connecting this way. You know, and small business owners, they might be very skilled at selling the product, the pen that they have. But, you know, I'd love to hear, you know, your experience of working with small business owners, you know, maybe what challenges you've helped them with during this COVID period. Do you have any insights in that?
Yeah, well, there's two things. You know, if I ask people what's the most important thing in your business, is it having a good product or service, or is it being able to build relationships? And I get a lot of people saying, oh, you've got to have a great service and a great product. And I go, well, if you don't build a relationship first, how do you get to prove to people how good you are or how good your product is? So they're both important, because one without the other, you've got nothing. Because you might be able to build relationships, but if your product or service stinks, you're not going to keep them very long. So
Right.
you've got to have, that's got to be good. But the priority, the order is build the relationship. As they say that know, like, and trust. That's what we look for. We don't do business with people we don't know, like, and trust. So build that first of all, and then you can offer the product and service.
Yeah.
So that's the direction. That's always in that particular order that you need to do things.
Well, I feel we're singing from the same hymn book here.
Definitely.
Certainly agree with that. So I guess, you know, to dig a little bit deeper, you know, what are some of the things that maybe small business owners, you know, anybody listening to this podcast, it doesn't matter what role, you know, what business size they have, but I'd be keen to understand what might be some tips that you might suggest for small business owners. They're in a selling mode, they're on the virtual screen. What are some of the things that might be some good takeaways for them?
Well, if they're going to be doing it, they know who the client is they're going to go and see. As I always jokingly say to everybody, and possibly not so much jokingly, I'm a social media stalker. If I'm going to go and have to talk to you, I'm going to go and find your face. You know, LinkedIn, websites, you know, Facebook pages, wherever I can find your face, I've got your personality. And have a look, if you go into the LinkedIn profile, look at what the person's written about themselves. Now, I know that a lot of people don't write their own resume. And it shouldn't be a resume if you're running a business. It should be in the first party, not the third party. It's because you're actually out there, you're offering a service. You're the brains. You're the person who's going to fix the other person's problem. So be careful how you write that. So I will look at what they've written about themselves, and I'll also look at their face as well. The face will tell me whether they can do what they've said they can do. Okay. And I've got that, so I can always read them before I go. So the more information I've got around them is important. But when I get to talk to somebody, the first thing I do is I put the product out of my mind. I think about, or the service as well. I think about, well, this person, people may have a need. I've got to find out what that need is. But if you sell to the need, all you're going to do is get an hourly rate. You're just fixing this problem and that problem. Why do they want it? What's behind that? And therefore now you've got a bigger spread to getting through their need, to their want, and being able to provide that. But what's behind that? They talk about the benefits behind the benefits. And the benefits behind the benefits are the emotional connections, the reason why they really want that service. Like somebody says, I want more sales. And you've asked a few questions, and what you end up finding out is they want those sales in a shorter period of time. Why? Because I want to be home when my kids go to school, and I want to be there when they come home. So you're getting into the emotional reason behind it. Because if you sell to them, I'll show you how to get more sales. Unless you connect it to what's behind it, you're not going to get there.
Correct.
So when you go to, as a mate of mine, Steve Brossman, always says that the ETM equals the ATM. So the ATM being the old teller machine, but the ETM being, because people don't, everything we do, we want to save money, we want to make money, we want to save time, and we've got to have the emotional connection to it. So ETM. You get those three right, and then you're able to get to the sale faster. When you build a relationship with somebody, by finding all that out, then you're able to provide a service faster than what you could before, and also keep their loyalty as well. Most people think, I just got to get my product. Well, you know, if I talk to somebody on the phone, I don't even think about what I've got to offer. There's a range of things I can do. What I do is I want to find out that from them, what's important to them. It's even if I'm just networking, for instance, and talking to somebody for the first time on LinkedIn or something like that, I want to know about them. I don't want to know about what they're about their business. I want to know about them first of all, because my first meeting is always, I want to know whether I like them, because if I don't like them, I'm not going to do business with them, even if I'm providing the service. And they need to find out whether they like me. It's a two-way transaction.
That's right.
And so once we build that, in that conversation, I find out more about their business. And in that, I find out about the needs, and they volunteer more information. It's why they, not only what they want, but why they want it.
Yeah.
And when I get into that, the end result is people will buy from you, but you don't even have to sell the product.
Yes. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're selling to the person's needs and what they want and the emotions behind it. And once they realize you can provide that, because you're a solution provider, you might be a plumber, or it could be an electrician, you could be any form of business. But at the end of the day, you're a solution provider. And if you focus on how can I find out what this person really needs, so I can then find what's the best solution for them. And at that point, they say yes. And it's after that I tell them how I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So we've already got the deal before I talk. Because people say, well, tell us about your course. You know, if it's a master program or something like that, we get to that pretty much after they've decided to sign up.
So ultimately, you're talking about reading signals and developing that relationship being the cornerstone of, hey, not just businesses, but I guess any organization is a testament to the people that you've worked with. Some of the other things I think is really important for business owners in the current world is connecting with teams, and we're, a lot of us are working remotely now, on and off, depending on where we are, but still spasmodically working remotely. Is there anything that you're seeing, teaching, learning around connecting with teams in a functional way, in a productive way, creating great outcomes through this remote locations and video calls and whatnot? Is there anything you're seeing there?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that's happened in business, well, first of all, in 2016, they were saying that 48% of the working force, this is across the Western world, not just Australia, 48% of the workforce didn't want to be at work. Another 18% were not only disengaged, they were actively disengaged. They were rubbish in their organisation, everything else. So that was a total of 66% of people didn't want to be at work. In 2018, that had gone to 87%.
Yeah.
In COVID, it actually went higher again. In fact, all the people who have been able to work from home, 80% of them don't want to go back to the office full time. They want to go back part time. And the problem is, I was talking to a gentleman in England the other day, and he was saying that 1 out of 4 people decided they don't want to go back to the employment, and they've actually resigned simply due to they don't like the management. Not that they don't like the job, they don't like the management. And that's where a lot of leadership, so-called leadership training, went wrong. It was teaching you how to manage people. You manage your resources, but you really lead and develop your assets. And people are assets, they're not resources. Yep. Resources, what do? We put them on the shelf. They collect dust. We leave them outside in the rain, etc. Try doing that with your people. Your assets, you nurture those so they grow and they're more productive. And if you do that with your staff, you'll end up having a lot more loyalty. The true description of a true business person is somebody who employs people that he or she will employ those people to do the things that he or she can't do or doesn't want to do. And at the point, do it so well that when they go on holidays, the company will not only survive, but it will grow in their absence. Because it's only then that the business person can work, the old catch cry, work on your business. The rest of the time they're working in the business. And when they're working in the business, it's the conversations are usually adult to child conversations, because they don't trust anybody. They're talking down to their staff. But when you're at the point where you can go and leave your organization, the conversations you are having are adult to adult. Your people in your business are working in the business and they want to be there. They're loyal to the business. And that's the quickest way that an organization can grow, because when your people are engaged, they're more productive. We know if staff have been bullied, their productivity drops 70%. Those that observe it, their productivity drops 40%, even if they're not being bullied. Overall performance of an organization on average drops about 29, 30%. So if your staff are engaged and happy and love their work, you're making more money. So the real drive for management today is put your management skills, develop those, but don't focus on those. Work on your leadership skills.
So I think just picking up on what you said there, there's a great point. What I take out of that is there's a real parallel between the relationship between a business owner and the customer, and also the manager and the employee, or the manager and their staff. There's, I guess you'd say, subordinate. Now, those relationships are quite similar. Should be looked at quite similar, and should be treated quite similar, because the business owner needs their customer, the manager needs their staff. As you said before there, Alan, often as a business owner, we want to select who we want to deal with. Not everybody quite gets that, but you do want to make sure you've got a connection and you are serving a purpose with it. And I think the manager needs to identify that with their staff members as well. And particularly through, and just pulling it back around to what you do, particularly through the selection process, through the hiring process, right? You've got to make sure that fits right. Is this someone that's going to culturally be a good fit? Not necessarily be your best buddy, but be a great cultural fit. Now, is there things through the body language, through the NLP, through your skill sets and your courses, your programs, that help managers with their employment process?
Yeah, well, everything, as I said, the facial features are probably the most important of anything, because they're the ones that tell you the personality. And very quickly, how that works, everything we feel inside, we express outwardly. We know that. So that's why the micro expressions of body language work. At the same time, if we lift weights, we build our muscles. So if you concentrate and think over and over in the same way, like if I do this, I always pull my eyebrows together and I get these little vertical lines. You do that over and over, the ridges and crevices you create on your face are a roadmap of how you like to think and process. There's your personality, not your character, but how you like to do things, not the what you like to do, but how you like to do things and process information. And so if you know that and you can read that in yourself, you know who's going to be suited to what a particular task. Now, if I may, Joanne, your face and my face, the actual width of it shows me that both you and I like to develop, build our confidence. We hear something for the first time. We don't rush out the door and apply it straight away and tell everybody about it. We go away and test it and we make sure we've got it right. Now, if I was hiring someone like Joanne or myself, and I had a task that we need to be put together, and it's going to be an ongoing process, so it's got to be done right, I'm going to give it to someone like us, because I know that person's going to go away and really work on it, make sure they got it right. They will agonize over it. They'll look at all the different problems there. And if there's a time frame on it, then I'll let them know, hey, there's going to be a lot of questions that come up. Instead of struggling with them, come back and talk to me. So I know how to set that person up. But that's the person I want to do the job, because I know they're not just going to think they got it and we put it in place and it doesn't work. I know we put it in place, it's definitely going to work. And so knowing that, I can build my teams around that. And if I put somebody in charge of the team, I know their traits. Every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside. So our upsides are where we have our strengths and where we're most efficient and we're happy and everything else and productive. The downside is what comes out when we're under stress. It's like somebody who has what I call dramatic appreciation, who expresses themselves outwardly, natural presenters. They also do stress with the same fervor. They come across to the others who are more aesthetic appreciation as drama queens. They can be too much. So I know that if I've got someone who has that dramatic appreciation and I've got them in a role where they're going to be dealing with the public, they've got to be animated and things like that, that's the person I'm going to hire. But I'm also going to make sure that their environment is set up so the downside of their traits don't come out and they then become overreactive. So I can look at somebody, know the structure of their face, look at all the different combinations. And where I know you've got all these different psychometric profiling where you ask questions, you put people into boxes, maximum number of boxes I think is around about 16. Well, that's like putting 7.7 billion people into 16 boxes. I come along and go, rightio, now that the person who's looked at you's got a rough idea where you sit, I'll take you out of the box and treat you as an individual. Because there's no two people on the planet with the same personality. But as soon as somebody walks past me in the street, even though I'm looking at about 68 traits, I can take, say, the first 8 or so that really stand out on their face, and I've got the bulk of their personality before they've walked past me from 10, 20 feet away. And I teach people how to do that. So if you're hiring somebody, Yes, you'd use online assessments and psychometric profiles and things to cull the numbers. And yes, you will lose a couple of good people in that, but you'll still have a good selection. When they come through the door for their interviews, you can then profile them. Or if they've already given you their LinkedIn profiles or whatever, you can pre-profile their facial features. When they come through the door, you then know what questions to ask, how to steer that conversation with them. And you've got the body language and expressions that then give you the feedback. Did I read them right? Is there anything emotionally going on? And are they telling me the truth? And so you can then fine tune it and get the right person for the job. Then you take them to your team and you look at your team and you do an assessment on that, okay, who's going to work best together? And let's face it, people who've got the same personality they're like us, they were our mates at school. They were the ones that we hung around and, we had our best times with. But those friends at school, when we go out into the workplace, are our biggest competition. Yep. They like doing the same things we like doing. They like chasing the same partners that we like chasing. And the people who we treated as nerds or we didn't like at school, they were the ones who will do the work that we don't like doing, and they won't be interested in the people that we like. So I'm thankful, man, I want to go on holidays with them, but boy, I'm so happy that they're there on Monday morning because I know the tasks that I don't like doing, I can push them across the table and they'll be going, thank you very much.
Thank you. I love that.
Teams are made through opposites, not similar people.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So, this is building connections, and I suppose a lot of what you're talking about there. Would you say it speeds up the process of being able to build that connection?
Very much so. As I said, if somebody walks through and they're coming up to me for the first time, and I know that this is somebody who needs some space, I'm going, same as I can see in your face, Nick, you're quite affable. You'll stand close to people when you meet them for the first time. Now, that person who needs more space is going to step back. And if we don't notice that they've stepped back because not that they don't like us, they're feeling uncomfortable, we step in. We've got this thing looks like a Keystone Cop or Benny Hill chase across the room. And they're not listening to anything we're saying because they're feeling totally uncomfortable. So if I recognise that straight away, I can set the environment up. We're in a place where we're really close together. I can turn my body slightly so there's an escape route for them. I'm still close to them, but I've given that bit of space. If I know how they take their information, I know how much information to give them, whether I give them an overview or whether I give them a lot of detail, what structure I put it in. And the more I'm talking to the person the way that they like to be spoken to, the connection's done faster.
It's so important when you're talking about employee engagement, worker engagement, workforce engagement. Those environments that you're talking about, setting that up, pairing the people, getting the right people in the right working locations, and the right teams, even right, the manager and the subordinate, whatever it may be. These are really important things to make sure that your business is, working productively, efficiently. And even affecting things like sick days and holidays, all that kind of stuff, right?
That's it.
Particularly, small business owners who are jumping into recruitment for the first time. It's a big step. It's a leap of faith often, and if they can do it with some insight as to how what you suggest, well, the journey of success is more assured. And because putting people on is a very expensive, timely exercise. It's not just the salary. And so if our small business owners can understand the concepts of what you're talking about, they are on the path to success more likely.
If they know how to talk to the person, they can build a connection fast.
Yeah.
Because most of them, especially when they start with their first recruitment, for instance, they will be looking for somebody they like, that they can get along with. Well, the problem is they're probably employing somebody like them. And so there'll be a lot of jobs that they don't like doing that they will never get the other person to do.
Yeah.
They'll be sitting in the corner, never getting done. A little way down the track, they'll say, well, I had to let them go. And it's not a matter of going, well, I look at somebody, if I don't like them, hire them. No, that doesn't work either. But it's a matter of, if you understand their personality traits, you know where their gifts are, what they like doing and what they don't like doing. You see how that matches in with what you really need in the business right now. What's going to complement you, not be the same as you, but to complement you so that you can build the organization quickly. Because a lot of people running businesses think that they're the ones who deal with the customers. When you start getting a few staff, the people who are the direct connection to the customers is your frontline staff. As they say, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. And it's not by giving them gifts and all the rest of it. It's by giving them tasks. It's the same as being in love. You know, if we feel that we belong, that we contribute, that we have value, then we feel that, you know, and this is what draws us to somebody else. It's no difference. The only difference should be no sex when you come into the workplace. But, you know, it's the same as a personal relationship when it comes down to that, is having that connection so that people feel that they want to be there. You don't have to give them bonuses because you can only give them so much money and it doesn't do any effort after, any good after that.
Yeah.
If you give them those conditions, they don't want to leave you because they're happy to go to work on Monday morning.
It's fulfilling.
That's it. And
Yeah.
you know, if they could, they'd come in on the weekend as well.
Yeah.
So if you're going through,
you're winning.
if you're going through and filling out that skills matrix and you're trying to identify, you know, you're new into this hiring game and trying to get people on, but you're trying to do the right thing. You've worked out what you're good at, and you're trying to fill those blanks in and looking at, okay, what's the sort of person I'm looking for here? I mean, is it true? Do opposites attract?
Yeah, you'll find that, well, especially in couples, for instance, you'll find that the person who attracts you is somebody who's different to you. If you're like a lot of those with aesthetic appreciation, they're laid back, they're relaxed and everything else. The person they will attract is somebody who's a bit more vibrant, somebody who's got more of the dramatic appreciation. And that's exciting to be around somebody who's quite dramatic. But after a while, the drama starts to build up and you start to get used to the upside of it. Now you start to notice the downside. And so the end result, oh, the person's changed. No, they haven't. Your perception of them
Just
changed.
get used to them.
Yeah.
I was talking to a couple in a workshop, a couple of dentists down in Victoria back in April. They had a young child there. They asked me to profile their child for them, which I did. And then I looked at both of them and I went, okay, because I was telling them how both of them need to change differently in the way they spoke. So they were talking to the child the same way. And that way, give the boy consistency, is what, 2 years old, give him consistency and they would be on the same page with him and have a better connection with him.
Got it.
But I looked at the guy and he was all about how things felt inside. His partner was all about expressing outwardly. And I'd said to her, I said, do you find that he withdraws a lot and pulls back when he's got things on his mind? And, you know, when you talk to him, he said pulls back further. And she goes, yeah, that really worries me. And I go, well, you've only got 2 questions in the statement. First question, is it anything to do with me? No, it's not. Is there anything that I can do to help? No, it's not. So there's the 2 questions out of the way. Then it was the statement, because if you kept on asking, he'd withdraw back into his cave. But if she then turned around and the statement was then, okay, I know you need to work on this on your own. I'm going to leave you to do that. But when you've got it sorted out, can you come and talk to me so I know what's going on? So that would suit her need then to be, you know, fulfill her need to know, but it gave him the space to go away and do it.
Do that.
He had a massive smile on his face. And that's when I said to him, right, mate, now it's your turn. And I said, do you find that your wife, you know, wants to, you know, tells you everything that's going on and it gets a bit much? And he goes, yeah. And I go, right, you have one statement. That's it. Or one question. Or one question, I should say. And the question is 2 parts. Is it anything that you want me to fix, or do you just want me to listen? I said, because if she says you want you to fix it, one of 2 things. You screwed up and she wants you to fix the problem that you've put in place, or you have the ability to fix the problem. Thirdly, if it wasn't to do with something, she just wanted you to listen. I said to him in front of the whole group, about 50 people in the room, and I said, do you love your wife? And he went, of course I do. Yeah, I do. And I said, well, then if she says she just wants you to listen, just hold a space. It's got nothing to do with you. Let the energy go. Just realize that you're being that loving partner, doing what you want to do to look after her, and just giving her space. Well, there's a smile on both their faces after that. There was a twinkle in their eye as well. So we've moved.
Well, I don't know about anyone listening, but that certainly helped me. Thank you, Alan. Oh, I'm glad I enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure that's a very helpful piece of information for a lot of people. And I see you talked about traits there before, and just getting, because you published a couple of books, haven't you, Alan?
Well, I published one that was written a while back, which was, I took a third of the traits between the ages of 0 and 5, because you can read a lot of traits in your newborn, traits that are passed down from the parents from the DNA. A third of the traits from 5 to 10, and then from the school age, leaving school age, to give them an idea of how to find the career that would match their personality. And that went out as an ebook on Amazon. I have co-written another book with 6 other professionals. We talked about how we got to doing what we're doing today, and that's called The Game Changer.
Yeah, it's your first book that I'm intrigued in, The Face. Is that right? It's called The Face?
That's The Face, yes.
And so you've got 20 traits to identify the career match for high school students. I think primarily aimed at high school. I've got 3 kids, 1 in high school, 2 shortly to be. So you sort of caught my eye with that one. Is there a couple, 1 or 2 traits you can share with us, or some examples that sort of give us a bit of an insight as to, what your train of thought is there and why it works?
Well, I'll give you one that's pretty easy to see in people when they're standing up. People have got short legs, and you've got some people who've got long legs for their height. There's some people got short torsos and long legs, like I have, and those that have got long legs and short torsos. And you'll find it's all the other way around. You've got short legs and long torsos. Mm-hmm. You'll find that those with short legs have a lower center of gravity. They're more for more ballistic movement type things. You'll find a lot of the basketballs, yes, they're tall, but check them out. A lot of them have medium to short legs because it's ballistic type movements. They're designed to stand. People like me with the longer legs are designed to sit. So if you put me in a job where I've got to stand, say at a production line or something like that, it's not long before my back goes out. I'm going to find it physically uncomfortable. For somebody who's got the short legs, with the length of their upper body, and when they're sitting in a position, the weight that's on their hips, and this goes for young children right through to senior adults, the longer your torso, the more pressure on your hips and the more painful it is to sit for long periods of time. So for school teachers, you've got kids in the classroom with short legs and you keep them there for long, they're going to start fidgeting. If you're a parent trying to get your kids at homeschooling to stay there for long periods of time, it's not going to work. They need to have breaks. People with long legs like me, I will sit there all day. I need to be reminded to get up and go for a walk or go and do something because I need to get exercise. But unless I get a call of nature or I've got somebody comes to the door or whatever, I can spend 12 hours at the computer without even stopping and thinking about anything else.
Wow.
And what about the career matching side of it?
Okay, so if you've got those short legs, are you going to put them as a receptionist? They're sitting at a desk all day long, not going to work. You'll find that somebody with those legs, there's a lot of traits that will come into the actual careers. But say working outside, construction, labour, in the forestry, etc. Those sort of positions where they're out there. If they've got really fine hair, you'll find that they're more empathetic to people's emotions. They'll pick emotions up very quickly. Those with coarser hair are more robust. So the coarser haired people, and you think about where they've come from as well. You found coarse hair usually were in the more remote areas or harsher climates like Ireland, in the cold bush and country areas. So those people are more robust, what I call high physical insulation. They're insulated to what's around. They can do outside jobs, working outside. When I go, I've got extremely fine hair. In fact, mine's baby fine. It's really fine. So when I go camping, all the other guys will have their swags that'll roll up about this big. Mine's about this big. It's got a mattress about that thick. Yeah, I like the 1,000-star accommodation with the stars above me, and I'll brush the ground. If there's any pebbles or anything else, I'll feel them through that mattress. I'm a real princess. But when you've got somebody who's more robust, they can virtually almost lie on the ground. And a lot of the Aboriginal brothers, when we go out camping, they'll just have this really narrow mattress, or if they've got their swag, they'll just roll up themselves up on a rock, and they'll fall asleep there because they can physically take it. Whereas, as I said, I'm a bit of a princess. I like my comfort. So I'm actually designed for, the quality of things. Whereas somebody who's got the others more about the quantity. At the same time, if I also look at, say, got someone with close set eyes, they're focused on what's in front of them. They won't see what's out here. So forensic accounting, or anybody who does research who has to look very closely. Wide set eyes, oh, there goes a bird, shiny. They get distracted easily.
So why did my grandmother always said if their eyes are too close together, you should never trust them? Is that true?
No, you'll find is that they are very focused on what they're doing, and there'll be a mismatch. Because also the thing that if somebody's eyes move, like a salesman's eyes move, you can't trust them. if their eyes aren't moving, you can't trust them. Because if they say to me, oh, I've got to think about that, and they look straight at you and their eyes don't look anywhere, you know they're telling you a lie.
They're not
They're telling
thinking.
you the same story they told everybody else before. Because we need to source information. When we're answering questions, we've got to think about it. We've got to look up for visual, out to the side for what it sounds like, go down for what it feels like, our feelings, our kinesthetic, and what's going on in our head. We go to one side for remembering what something looks like, sounds like. We look up to on the other side to create what it would look like or what it would sound like.
Wow.
The way I just moved is the way and I described it as the way I am, but some people are wired the other way. Always visual up and horizontal for the sound, but this side is my memory side. This is my creation side. But for some people, this is their memory side, and that becomes their creation side.
Because I've noticed of late, Alan, and it was just something that I'd realised, when people ask me a question, I often look up there and I go, oh, is that being disrespectful to the person on the screen because I'm not looking at them in the eye or, face to face?
Well,
So, is that something I need to fix? I'd literally thought that last week.
No, I would, if you don't look up, you're not going to get the answer. So you're not giving me the answer that I need. So therefore, I feel that is disrespectful.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
For you to source the information, because you look up there and that's your memory side. I know that you're thinking about it and you're being truthful about it as well.
Okay, cool.
So I'm really happy to see that. Some people go, oh no, you've looked the other way. No, we've got to source that information. If you want that person to be truthful to you, and if you want to be able to read where they are being truthful to you, hope that they do move their eyes.
Got it.
And see if
this is a MythBuster
I love it.
podcast here. This one, this is completely fascinating, and it's blowing away, I think, a few old wives' tales that we probably all become accustomed to. Your second book, Alan, The Game Changer, that's more of a life story? That's
more of my life story, because people ask me how I got to doing what I'm doing. Was I always this good? No, I was shocking. 2 divorces, raised 3 boys on my own. Been thrown at the deep end in so many places in my life, and through chance and through luck, I've swum to the top. And it's all those lessons I've learned along the way. So that those that people think that, well, I can't make it. Well, yes, you can. Look at what I've been through. At the same time, for those that are thinking, well, I'm going through something now, how do I work through it? Some answers there as well.
So yeah, right.
Everything I do is in building relationships. So whether it be in this or my personal life or my spiritual journey, it's all the same.
And what was it in your journey that sort of got you to be, obviously an expert in this field, particularly body language, reading people? What, is this just accumulation or was there a moment? Was there one moment? Everyone's got this one moment, haven't they? You must have a moment that's led somewhere along the way.
If I'm honest about it, I've got a lot of just one moments.
Right. Yeah.
As I said, when I first came to Newcastle, I was put in charge of men who were all older than me. And I was working with the day that the PMG became Telecom, I moved to Newcastle, and I had to get them on. So my second in charge was 35 and I was 23. So that was the beginning of working through that. And one of the other guys had actually been my senior in Sydney. And so now he's on my staff. In my mid-30s, I joined the surf club and they taught me to be a patrol captain, gave me everyone that nobody wanted. I turned that into patrol of the year. So they promoted me to being the club captain and zone supervisor of 3 beaches. But again, now I'm thinking same age as everybody else, but they had all the experience. They've been there since kids, and I'd only been there 5 minutes as far as they were concerned, but they'd put me in charge. So I had to work through that. And then when my first wife left, I had the 3 boys to raise. They were 4, 11 and 12. So that was another significant change. But it was in my, beginning of, I love this, turn of the century. God, does that make you feel old, eh?
Yes, sounds so long ago.
That was when I went through my second divorce. And at that point, I just realized, because I've been doing psychometric profiling. I've been working with Myers-Briggs and DISC profiling. I've been, NLP. I've worked with body language all those years. I thought I had it all together. I've been a massage therapist. I've worked with color therapy, sound therapies, Reiki master. As one of my friends said, Alan, you've just about been through every therapy there is. It's probably time you were in therapy. And I thought, well, he might be a bit right on that one. But I realised that I still wasn't reading people. And after the second breakup, that really drove it home to me. And about the same time, shortly after that, I was working with a company that were teaching currency trading. And none of their students made any money, so they got me to come in. And I was using Myers-Briggs and desk profiling systems. And when they started trading, they didn't match their personalities. All of a sudden, they were losing money. And I needed a better system. And somebody said to me, you ever looked at reading faces? So the combination of that plus the separation and how that hit me, I thought I've got to do something that's dramatically different. And I think from all the technical stuff I've been doing to now just reading faces, that was a big shift.
Well, I hope on the third time round you got your recruitment process right there, Alan. you got your skills matrix right.
Well, I've got so wrapped up in what I'm doing. I've got my focus at the moment is to create and train my competition because we need more people doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
My belief as a leader is your job is to make yourself redundant. So anybody who comes to me to be trained, I want to train them to a level where they're better than what I am and set them up so that they go into their particular fields. I can go wide across all the industries, which I've done with a lot of my courses now being professional development programs, CPD programs for a range of industries. But I want those people to be specialists. So if that's the field they want to work in, I want to help them to become better again to go out and work in that area. And that's been my focus. I'm in my 70th year now on the planet. And so it's making sure that those skills are passed on to others and to see them achieve as well. And I run a group called the Campfire Project, which is for men and women to come together and share their stories. And so creating a global community of where we have respectful conversations. So that's where my focus goes at the moment outside my working hours.
I hope you've got a big comfy cushion when you're sitting around the campfire from what you said before.
I always have a nice comfortable chair. I don't care if everybody else is sitting on logs and rocks. I'm going to have a comfortable chair.
Yeah, yours is twice as thick as everyone else's.
That's it. Now, I hope when you rephrase that, you don't sort of mix part of that up and just say he's twice as thick as others.
Yeah. No, I think it's a hugely important skill. As I say, from a sales background, from a very young age, I think it's hugely important to be able to identify, and even in a much less formal way than obviously you do, but to identify people's behaviours, their movements. But second and beyond that is actually having that self-awareness, and that's just a really important part of life. And I imagine through a lot of your programs, your coaching, your courses that you're doing, that people are actually learning as much about themselves as they are about others, right?
That's it. So the first 3 rules, I've got 7 secrets to reading people. The first 3, know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, you don't know where you sit on the world scale, you don't know how other people see you. Then you need to be able to read the other person. And thirdly, change the way that you like to be spoken to match the way that they want to be spoken to. So I know that if I was somebody who just liked the overview, I'd know if I was talking to both of you, you'd be wanting more information before you make your decision. So if I just give you the overview, you'd be interrupting me wanting more information. It would take forever and I'd be dragged back and I'd lose track. So if I know that, I can say to you, look, I'll give you the overview first of all, then you can ask all the questions. So I need to do it this way so I don't forget anything. Is that okay? And we organise that understanding. So doing that, it's so important. But the other areas you can use this, you can use this raising your children. It doesn't matter. It fits every age.
I'm intrigued. So, Alan, if people want to find you, how do they find you? And let's get that information out there.
Yeah, the easiest way is my website, which is alanstevens.com.au, and it's Alan with the ALAN, 1 L. I tell people my family wasn't rich enough for 2 L's. And Stevens, which is stevens.com.au. But if they want to give a bit of a play and see how this works, they put the / after the alanstevens.com.au and the word free, FREE. I've got a 28-minute free course that it'll show how it all works. There's a couple of traits that can go and test for themselves and get their own, to get their head around it and say whether it works for them or not. And it also talks about where the eyes move, as we talked about before. I can get an
Yeah,
understanding
great.
of how that works.
That's awesome.
So it's that was alanstevens.com.au/free. Did you say?
Free, FREE.
Yeah, great.
That's amazing. We'll make
And your
sure.
books available. I imagine they're on that website too, are they? Or
Well, if you go to my website, you'll be able to get download the chapter of the Game Changer, which is the chapter I did in there. You can get that free as well.
Right.
And the face, you'll be able to find that on Amazon and also Google Play.
Fantastic.
right. Okay. Perfect.
That is awesome. Well, Alan, as last time, the conversation just was rich and, you know, some epiphanies there. I'm glad looking up for me is a good thing. I think, Nick, you've got some stuff to apply to the children.
Yeah. I've got some. I've got discussions with my wife to have tonight. I've got matching my kids to a job straight away,
Yeah.
and now I can start trusting people whose eyes are too close together again.
Yes, indeed. Some great epiphanies here.
Love it.
So
Right.
it was
a pleasure,
delight.
Alan. Thank you so much for your time. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.